5 years had passed since the day humanity saved the galaxy, and Captain Sarah Williams stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Frontier as it approached the edge of known space. Beyond lay the mysterious regions that even the ancient, dimensional anchor network could not fully monitor. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Tom Bradley from the navigation station, "we are receiving a transmission from the Eternal Guardians." Sarah smiled. Even after all this time, hearing from Jake Sullivan and the other volunteers never got old. Their voices had become a constant comfort to every human ship traveling through the galaxy. "Put it through, Tom," Sarah said. Jake's voice filled the bridge, warm and reassuring despite the vast consciousness he had become. "Sarah, you are approaching the boundary of our network. Beyond this point, reality becomes uncertain again." "Any advice for us, Admiral?" Sarah asked. She still used his old rank out of respect, even though Jake was now something far beyond any military position. "Be careful." Maya Foster's voice joined the conversation from her position monitoring the Centauri sector. "The readings we are getting from beyond the network suggest there might be other forms of life out there, different from anything we have encountered." Dr. Kevin Brooks added his thoughts from the void region. "The physics in those areas follow rules we do not understand yet. But that has never stopped humanity before." Sarah looked out at the swirling colors of the boundary region, where space itself seemed to shift between different states of existence. For 5 years, humanity had been content to rebuild and explore within the safety of the dimensional anchor network. But now, with the galaxy stable and prosperous, some humans felt the old urge to push into the unknown. New frontier to Guardian. "Network," Sarah said formally. "We are proceeding beyond the boundary to explore new regions of space." "We will be watching," Jake replied. "But our influence ends at the network boundary. You will be on your own out there." As the new frontier crossed into uncharted space, the crew felt a strange sensation, as if they had stepped from a warm house into a cold night. The familiar presence of the Eternal Guardians faded, leaving them truly alone for the first time in years. Behind them, in the galaxy they had left, life continued under the protection of the dimensional anchor network. On New Terra, now a thriving world of 50 million humans, children played in parks while their parents worked on projects that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. Governor Janet Miller walked through the capital city of New California, marveling at how much had changed. The buildings were taller and more elegant than anything humans had built in council space. The technology was more advanced, the people healthier and happier. "Status report," Janet said to her aide as they toured the newest district. "Population. Growth is steady, Governor," her aide replied. "The latest medical advances from Dr. Watson's team have eliminated most diseases. The agricultural systems are producing more food than we can eat, and the education programs are graduating students who seem smarter than previous generations." Janet nodded. Living near the dimensional anchors had effects that scientists were still trying to understand. Humans seemed to be evolving, becoming better versions of themselves in ways that were subtle but real. On the council worlds, similar changes were happening to the alien species. The Zephyrians, once proud and aggressive, had become more cooperative and peaceful. The Christine had developed new art forms that incorporated human creativity. Even the stubborn Korath had begun to show interest in diplomacy over conquest. Chancellor Morden stood in the rebuilt council chambers, looking out at representatives from 63 species. 16 new species had joined the galactic community. In the past 5 years, drawn by the stability and prosperity that the anchor network provided, the quarterly reports show continued improvement across all sectors, the Chancellor announced. Trade is at record levels, conflicts have decreased by 90%, and scientific advancement is accelerating faster than ever before. Counselor Vexthai, now one of humanity's strongest supporters, added his own observations. The human colonies report that they are ready to expand into new systems. Should we approve their requests? Of course, Morden replied. Humanity has earned the right to go wherever they choose in this galaxy. But out beyond the network boundary, the crew of the New Frontier was discovering that the universe held surprises that no one had expected. Captain, called Dr. Rachel Stone from the science station. I am detecting structures ahead. They look artificial, but they are not like the dimensional anchors. On the main screen, strange objects came into view. They were massive, easily the size of small moons, but they seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted and changed as they watched. Are they ships? Lieutenant Bradley asked. I do not think so, Dr. Stone replied. They are not moving, and I am not detecting any engines or weapons, but they are definitely not natural. As the New Frontier approached the nearest structure, it suddenly came to life. Lights began flowing across its surface in patterns that seemed almost like writing. A low hum filled the ship as the strange object began to communicate. Captain, said Communications Officer Linda Chen, I am receiving a transmission. It is not in any language our computers recognize, but the universal translator is trying to make sense of it. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike anything they had ever heard. It sounded like music mixed with mathematics, beautiful but completely alien. Greetings, reality weavers, the voice said. We have been waiting for your species to expand beyond your network. Sarah felt her heart race. This is Captain Sarah Williams of the human exploration vessel New Frontier. Who are you? We are the architects, the voice replied. We built the first dimensional anchor networks eons ago. We have been watching your species with great interest. Dr. Stone looked up from her instruments with excitement. Captain, the readings I am getting suggest these beings exist partially outside normal space-time, similar to the Eternal Guardians, but much more advanced. You chose well, the architect continued. Your species has proven worthy of the responsibility. We gave you, but now it is time for the next phase of your development. What do you mean? Sarah asked. The dimensional anchor network you maintain is just one of thousands throughout the universe, the architect explained. Each network protects a galaxy, and each is maintained by a species that has proven itself capable of such sacrifice. Sarah realized what this meant. You are saying there are other species like us? Other reality weavers? Many others, the architect confirmed. And now it is time for humanity to meet them. To join the greater community of species that protect existence itself. Back in the galaxy, Jake Sullivan felt the conversation happening at the network boundary. Through the dimensional anchors, he could sense the presence of the architects and understand what they were offering. Sarah, Jake's voice reached across the vast distance. Accept their invitation. This is what we were always meant to become. What about you and the other Guardians? Sarah asked. Will you be able to come with us? We will remain to protect this galaxy, Jake replied. But we will always be connected to you, no matter how far you travel. The anchor network spans more than just space. It spans the bonds between all who choose to protect rather than destroy. The architect's ship began to glow brighter. If you are ready, reality weavers, we will show you wonders beyond imagination. Galaxies where reality itself is art, where entire civilizations exist as pure thought, where the boundaries between possible and impossible have been completely erased. Sarah looked around at her crew. She could see the same excitement in their faces that she felt in her heart. This was what humanity did best. Face the unknown with courage and curiosity. New frontier to all human vessels, Sarah broadcast. We have made contact with the beings who created the dimensional anchor network. They are inviting us to explore regions of the universe we never knew existed. This is President Adams, came the reply from Earth. You have the full support of humanity, Captain. Show them what we are capable of. As the new frontier followed the architect ship into the vast unknown beyond their galaxy, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had been cast out for being different, had chosen sacrifice over revenge, and had become the protectors of those who had betrayed them. Now they were being invited to join an even greater community, to explore realities that existed beyond the boundaries of normal space and time. "Jake," Sarah called out to the Eternal Guardians, "are you proud of what we have become?" "We have always been proud," Jake replied from his position at the galactic core. "But now we are something more than proud. We are home." As humanity began its next great adventure, the galaxy they left behind continued to thrive under the protection of those who had chosen to become eternal guardians. And in the vast network that connected all realities, the bonds of sacrifice and love grew stronger. With each passing day, Admiral Jake Sullivan stood before the master dimensional anchor at the center of the galaxy and prepared to make the greatest sacrifice in human history. Around him, the massive structure pulsed with energy that seemed to respond to his presence, as if it had been waiting millions of years for this moment. "Are you ready, Admiral?" Dr. Emma Watson asked from her position at the control station. She had spent weeks developing the technology that would allow humans to bond permanently with the Anchor Network. "No one is ever ready for this," Jake replied, "but that does not mean we should not do it." Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out at hundreds of dimensional anchors. Human volunteers were preparing to give up their individual existence to become eternal guardians of reality itself. Captain Maya Foster was at an anchor near the Centauri system. Captain Ryan Carter had chosen an anchor in the Void sector. Dr. Kevin Brooks was stationed at an anchor in former Council space. Each volunteer knew they would survive the bonding process, but they would no longer be entirely human. Their consciousness would expand to monitor vast regions of space and time, ensuring that the laws of physics remained stable and that reality continued to exist. President Claire Adams watched from Earth as reports came in from across the galaxy. The restoration missions had begun 12 hours ago, and already the worst affected areas were showing signs of improvement. "Status report," Claire said to her staff. "Gravity has stabilized on 8 of the 12 affected worlds," General Marcus Stone reported. "The Centauri star stopped flickering an hour ago, and hyperspace travel is becoming safe again in sectors where volunteers have bonded with the anchors." "What about the volunteers themselves?" Claire asked. Dr. Watson's voice came through the communication system from the galactic core. "The bonding process is working exactly as predicted. The volunteers are alive and conscious, but their awareness now spans light years instead of just their immediate surroundings." "Can they still communicate?" Claire asked. "Yes, but differently," Emma replied. "They can speak to us, but they also speak to each other across the entire galaxy simultaneously. They are becoming something new." On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Morden and the remaining council members watched in amazement as human volunteers saved their civilization. The very people they had exiled were now sacrificing themselves to preserve the galaxy that had rejected them. "How many volunteers do we need?" Councillor Vexithai asked, his voice showing a humility that had never been there before. "Dr. Watson estimates about 800 total," reported Admiral Sullivan's aide. "We have 600 volunteers already in position, and more arriving every hour." "And Admiral Sullivan?" the Chancellor asked. "He has chosen to bond with the Master Anchor at the Galactic Core," came the reply. "The most dangerous position and the most important one." At the Master Anchor, Jake felt the bonding process beginning. Energy flowed through him in ways that human language could not describe. His awareness expanded beyond his body, beyond his ship, beyond the solar system around him. Suddenly, he could sense every dimensional anchor in the galaxy. He could feel Captain Foster monitoring space-time near Centauri, Captain Carter maintaining stability in the void, Dr. Brooks ensuring that former Council worlds remained habitable. "Jake!" came Maya Foster's voice, but not through any communication device. She was speaking directly to his consciousness across thousands of light years. "Are you all right?" "I think so," Jake replied the same way. "I can see everything. Every star. Every planet. Every living thing in the galaxy. And I can feel the network holding it all together." "It is beautiful," added Captain Carter from his position in the void. "Terrifying, but beautiful." Dr. Brooks's mental voice joined the conversation. "The network is stabilizing. Reality is becoming solid again. We did it." But Jake could sense something more in the network. The dimensional anchors were not just maintaining reality. They were connected to something vast and ancient, something that existed beyond the galaxy itself. "There are others," Jake said with wonder. "Other galaxies, other networks, other species like us." Through the expanded awareness that came with bonding to the master anchor, Jake could perceive the cosmic web that connected all existence. Humanity was not unique in being reality weavers. Across the universe, countless species had evolved or been chosen to maintain the stability of their regions of space. "We are part of something magnificent," Jake told his fellow volunteers. "A universal community of guardians, all working together to keep existence itself running smoothly." On Earth, President Adams received Jake's final transmission as an individual, human being. "Claire," Jake's voice said, sounding peaceful despite everything he was giving up, "tell humanity that we did not lose ourselves today. We found our true purpose. We are not just exploring the stars anymore. We are protecting them." The transformation of the volunteers marked a turning point, not just for the galaxy, but for humanity itself. Those who remained free continued to build and explore, but now they did so knowing they were watched over by their own people who had become something greater. Dr. Lisa Morgan, who had chosen to remain unbonded to continue her research, stood on the observation deck of her ship and looked out at the stars. She could not see the dimensional anchors with her eyes, but she knew they were there. Jake, Maya, Ryan, Kevin, and hundreds of others, their consciousness spread across the galaxy like a protective net. "Are you still there, Jake?" she asked. "Aloud. Always," came the reply, not from any speaker, but somehow from the space around her. "We are watching over all of you, every human ship, every colony, every family. You are never alone out here." The Galactic Council, humbled by humanity's sacrifice, established the Covenant of Remembrance. Never again would any species be judged for being different. Never again would fear be allowed to triumph over cooperation. Chancellor Morden himself delivered the first annual Remembrance Address, speaking to representatives of all galactic civilizations. "Today we honor those who chose mercy over vengeance," he said. "The humans could have watched us destroy ourselves. Instead, they became the eternal guardians of our continued existence. Let us never forget that our greatest threats do not come from those who are different from us, but from our own fear of difference." In the years that followed, human ships continued to explore the galaxy, but now they traveled under the protection of the Eternal Guardians. New colonies were established with the knowledge that Jake Sullivan and his volunteers were monitoring every system, ready to intervene if reality itself became unstable. The free humans developed new technologies and made new discoveries, always guided by the wisdom of those who had expanded beyond individual existence. Children grew up knowing that their protectors were not distant gods or alien overlords, but humans who had chosen to become something more. Dr. Emma Watson, now elderly but still brilliant, often stood in her laboratory and spoke to the volunteers, who existed in the dimensional network. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked them once. "How can we regret becoming what the universe needed us to become?" Jake's voice replied from everywhere and nowhere. "We were always meant for this. Humanity's greatest gift was never our technology or our courage. It was our willingness to choose hope over fear, sacrifice over safety, and love over hatred. Even after everything the Council did to you, especially because of what they did to us, Maya Foster's voice added. They taught us that being different is not a curse. It is a responsibility, and we have never been more proud to be human than we are right now. As Emma looked out at the stars, she could feel the presence of the eternal guardians watching over the galaxy. Humanity had been cast out for being different, but they had returned not as conquerors or rulers, but as the protectors of all existence. They had turned exile into purpose, betrayal into sacrifice, and fear into the greatest act of love the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the New Horizons and stared at something that should not exist. 6 months had passed since humanity left Council space, and what they had found in the void sector changed everything people thought they knew about the universe. Are you getting this, Dr. Brooks? Ryan asked the scientist who had spent the last 3 days trying to make sense of their discovery. Dr. Kevin Brooks looked up from his instruments, his face pale with excitement and fear. The readings are impossible, Captain. These structures exist in normal space and somewhere else at the same time. They are breaking every law of physics I know. Through the ship's main window, Ryan could see the thing that had drawn them deeper into the void than any human had ever traveled. It looked like a building made of light and shadow, stretching for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. But when he blinked, it seemed to shift and change, as if it existed in several different places at once. How many of them are there? Ryan asked. We have detected at least 40 structures in this sector alone, Dr. Brooks replied. And the quantum scan suggests there might be thousands more spread throughout the void. They form some kind of network. Commander Beth Hayes joined them at the observation window. She had been chosen to plan humanity's new settlements, but the discoveries in the void were making her rethink everything. Captain, Beth said, I have been reviewing the colonization reports from New Terra. We need to talk about what is happening there. Ryan turned away from the impossible structure outside. What kind of problems are we having? That is just it, Beth replied. We are not having problems. We are having the opposite of problems, and it is making everyone nervous. 6 months ago, New Terra had been just another rocky planet in an empty system. The first human settlers had expected to spend years building basic shelters and growing enough food to survive. Instead, they found that everything worked better than it should. Chief Engineer Rodriguez sent his report this morning. Beth continued. The power systems on New Terra are producing 30% more energy than they should. The farming equipment is working so efficiently that they have already harvested enough food for twice their population. And the construction robots are building structures that are stronger and more advanced than their programming should allow. Dr. Brooks looked up from his instruments with a worried expression. Commander, I think those results might be connected to what we are seeing out here. These structures seem to respond to human presence in ways they do not respond to anything else. What do you mean? Ryan asked. 3 days ago, we sent a probe toward the nearest structure, Dr. Brooks explained. Nothing happened. Yesterday, I went out in a shuttle to take closer readings. The moment I got within 1 kilometer, the entire structure began to glow brighter. It was like it knew I was there. Could it be some kind of defense system? Beth asked. I do not think so, Dr. Brooks replied. When I moved closer, the structure did not attack or try to push me away. It seemed to welcome me. The energy readings actually became more stable when I was nearby. Ryan activated the communication system to contact Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez on New Terra. The colony was 3 days away by quantum slip, but their new communication technology could reach across vast distances instantly. Sam, this is Captain Carter. Can you hear me? Loud and clear, Captain. Sam's voice crackled through the speakers. Are you calling about the latest anomalies? What anomalies? Ryan asked, though he was starting to suspect he knew the answer. Well, yesterday, our mineral extractors found something buried about 2 kilometers beneath the colony site. It looks like another one of those structures you have been finding in deep space, except this one has been here for a very long time, Ryan. exchanged glances with Dr. Brooks and Commander Hayes. How long? Geological analysis suggests it has been there for at least 1,000,000 years, Sam replied. But here is the strange part. The moment we started digging toward it, all our equipment began working better. Not just a little better, a lot better. Define a lot better, Dr. Brooks said. Our fusion reactors are now producing clean energy with zero-waste products. Our matter converters can turn raw rock into complex materials that should require weeks of processing, and our medical scanners are detecting and treating diseases that our doctors did not even know existed. Commander Hayes leaned forward. Sam, are the colonists experiencing any side effects? That is the thing, Commander. People feel better too. Stronger, faster, smarter. Not in a scary way, just like they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Even the plants in our gardens are growing bigger and healthier than they should. After ending the call, the 3 officers sat in silence for several minutes, trying to process what they had learned. So we have ancient structures that respond to humans, Ryan summarized. They make our technology work better. They make our people healthier. And they have been waiting in the void for us to find them. It gets worse, Dr. Brooks said quietly. I have been monitoring communications from Council Space. They are having problems. What kind of problems? Beth asked. Dr. Brooks activated a holographic display showing reports from across the galaxy. Equipment failures mainly. Nothing dramatic, just a slow decline in efficiency. Their hyperspace lanes are becoming less stable. Their communication networks are experiencing more delays. Their medical technology is not working as well as it used to. Since when? Ryan asked, though he suspected he already knew. Since we left, Dr. Brooks replied. It started small, but it is getting worse. Some of their scientists are beginning to think the problems are connected to humanity's departure. Commander Hayes studied the reports with growing alarm. Dr. Brooks, do you think these structures are connected to the problems in Council Space? I think they are connected to everything, Dr. Brooks replied. I think they form a network that spans the entire galaxy, and somehow humanity is supposed to be part of that network. But we never knew about them before, Ryan pointed out. Maybe we did not need to know, Dr. Brooks said. Maybe our presence was enough to keep the network stable, even if we did not understand what we were doing. The implications of this discovery hit all 3 of them at the same time. If Dr. Brooks was right, then humanity was not just another species exploring the galaxy. They were a crucial part of something much larger, something that kept the galaxy itself functioning properly. We need to contact President Adams immediately, Commander Hayes said. If the galaxy is becoming unstable because we left, then we have a much bigger problem than just being exiled. Ryan was about to agree when his communication officer called out from across the bridge. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Council Space. It is being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it through, Ryan ordered. The voice that filled the bridge belonged to Counselor Vexus High, but it sounded very different from the confident snake who had pronounced humanity's exile 6 months ago. Now he sounded desperate. To any human, vessels that might be receiving this transmission, Vexthai began. The Galactic Council requests immediate diplomatic contact. We are experiencing technical difficulties that may be related to your departure from our space. We may have made an error in our previous judgment. Dr. Brooks looked at the ancient structure visible through the window, then at the reports showing the slow collapse of galactic civilization. Captain, he said quietly, I think we are about to learn that being different is not just humanity's strength. It might be our responsibility. Ryan stared out at the impossible structure that seemed to pulse with welcome whenever humans came near. Somewhere in Council Space, the carefully ordered galaxy was falling apart without them. And here in the void, ancient technology was waiting for humanity to fulfill a purpose they had never known they had. Set course for New Terra, Ryan ordered, and send a message to all human ships. Tell them we need to have a very serious conversation about what we have gotten ourselves into. As the new horizons turned toward the human colony, the ancient structure behind them pulsed once with brilliant light, as if saying goodbye to visitors it had been waiting eons to meet. Admiral Jake Sullivan sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Liberty's Dawn and watched the galaxy tear itself apart. On the main screen, emergency reports flooded in from across Council space. What had started as minor equipment failures 6 months ago had become a crisis that threatened every living thing in the galaxy. "Report," Jake said to Dr. Lisa Morgan, who had been analyzing the data for weeks. "It is getting worse, Admiral," Lisa replied, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had not slept properly in days. "Gravity is fluctuating on 12 different worlds. The star in the Centauri system has been flickering like a broken light bulb for 3 days, and hyperspace travel is becoming so dangerous that most species have stopped using it entirely." Captain Maya Foster stood at the tactical station, reviewing rescue mission reports. Her ships had been pulling people out of the worst affected areas for weeks, but there were too many disasters and not enough rescue vessels. "We saved another 2 million people from the Valdris system yesterday," Maya reported. "But we had to leave behind anyone who could not reach the evacuation points in time. Time itself was moving backward for hours at a time." "Backward?" Jake asked. "People would finish eating breakfast, then watch their food reappear on their plates," Maya explained. "Children would go to sleep as adults and wake up as babies. The rescue teams had to work during the few hours when time was moving forward. Normally?" Professor Dan Cooper looked up from his computer, where he had been trying to solve the unsolvable. As humanity's leading expert on theoretical physics, he was their best hope of understanding what was happening to reality itself. "Admiral," Dan said, "I think I understand what is going on, but you are not going to like the explanation." "Tell me," Jake replied. "The structures we found in the void are not just ancient technology," Dan explained. "They are dimensional anchors. They hold the fabric of space and time together across the entire galaxy. And somehow, humanity is genetically designed to maintain them." Lisa leaned forward. "What do you mean, genetically designed?" "I mean someone or something modified human DNA millions of years ago," Dan replied. "We are not just compatible with the anchor network. We are living components of it. Our presence keeps reality stable. The implications hit everyone in the room at the same time. Humanity had not stumbled onto the anchor network by accident. They had been created to be part of it. So when we left Council space," Jake said slowly, "we left gaps in the network." "Exactly." Dan nodded. "And those gaps are getting bigger every day. Reality is unraveling from the edges inward." Captain Foster activated a holographic display showing the affected regions. "The damage pattern supports that theory. The areas where humans used to live are experiencing the worst problems. The further you get from former human colonies, the more stable things become." "For now," Dan added grimly, "but the instability is spreading. If we do not fix this soon, the entire galaxy will collapse into chaos." Jake's communication officer called out from across the bridge. "Admiral, we are receiving another transmission from the Council. This one is marked as highest priority." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was not Counselor Vexthai this time. It was Chancellor Morden, the highest-ranking leader in the entire Galactic Council. The ancient being looked like he had aged decades in the past few months. "Admiral Sullivan," the Chancellor began, "I am calling to formally apologize for the Council's actions and to request humanity's immediate assistance." Jake kept his expression neutral. "What kind of assistance, Chancellor?" "We have discovered ancient records that speak of the reality weavers," Morden replied. "A species that maintained the cosmic order eons ago. We believe that humans are their descendants or chosen successors." "And what do these records say about the reality weavers?" Lisa asked. "That without them, existence itself becomes unstable," Morden said quietly. "The records describe exactly what we are experiencing now. Stars dying, time flowing backward, the laws of physics becoming unreliable. So you want us to come back and fix the problems you created by exiling us, Jake said. We will give you anything you ask for, Morden replied desperately. Territory, resources, positions of leadership. You can rewrite the council charter if you wish. Just please, help us save the galaxy. Jake looked around at his senior staff. He could see the same conflict in their faces that he felt in his own heart. The council had betrayed humanity, cast them out, and treated them like criminals. But billions of innocent people were dying because of the council's mistake. Chancellor, Jake said, we will consider your request. But first, we need to understand exactly what fixing this crisis will require. After ending the communication, Jake called an emergency meeting of all human ship commanders. Within hours, holographic images of captains, scientists, and colony leaders filled the conference room aboard Liberty's Dawn. You all heard the transmission, Jake began. The question is, what do we do about it? Captain Carter spoke first from his ship in the void. Admiral, Dr. Brooks has been studying the anchor network. He believes that repairing it will require humans to permanently bond with the dimensional anchors. We would become living parts of the system. What does that mean exactly? Asked Governor Janet Miller from New Terra. Dr. Brooks appeared on the screen from Carter's ship. It means volunteering to have your consciousness merged with the anchor network. You would still be alive, but you would exist as part of the system that maintains reality. Forever. A long silence filled the room as the implications sank in. So we have to choose between letting the galaxy die or sacrificing our freedom to save it, said Captain Turner from the evacuation fleet. That is correct, Dan Cooper confirmed, and we need volunteers for anchors throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. The Council exiled us because they were afraid of what we might become, said Commander Hayes from her colony ship. Now they want us to become something even more different to save them. Jake looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some showed anger, others showed resignation. But he also saw something else. Determination. I have a question, said Dr. Price from her research ship. If we do this, if we save the galaxy by becoming part of the anchor network, what happens to the rest of humanity? The ones who do not volunteer would be free to continue exploring and building, Dr. Brooks replied. But they would always know that their fellow humans were watching over them, keeping reality stable. Captain Foster raised her hand. Admiral, I volunteer. Maya, you do not understand what you are agreeing to, Jake said. Yes, I do, Maya replied, firmly. I have been pulling people out of collapsing star systems for weeks. I have seen children age backward and stars go out like candles. If becoming part of the anchor network can stop that, then that is what I choose to do. One by one, other voices spoke up around the room. Captains, scientists, engineers, even some of the colony leaders. Not all of them, but enough. We came out here to be free, said Captain Carter. But maybe the greatest freedom is choosing to protect others, even when they do not deserve it. Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders that was heavier than any command he had ever carried. The decision that humanity faced would define not just their future, but the future of the entire galaxy. Very well, he said finally. We return to Council space, not as exiles coming home, but as humanity choosing to be what the galaxy needs us to be. Outside the ship, reality continued to unravel, waiting for humanity to make the ultimate choice between justice and mercy. President Claire Adams stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, staring at screens that showed the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced. 7 days to evacuate over 2 billion people from dozens of worlds across Council space. 7 days to save an entire civilization. Report, she said to the room full of officials who had not slept in 36 hours. General Marcus Stone stepped forward, his uniform wrinkled from hours of coordinating military operations. We have transport ships moving to every human colony. The big ones like New California and Port Liberty are the biggest challenge. We are talking about moving entire cities. What about the outer colonies? Claire asked. The farming worlds and mining stations are easier, Marcus replied. Smaller populations, and most of the people there are used to moving quickly when needed. But some of the deep space research stations might be impossible to reach in time. Dr. Emma Watson looked up from her computer. She had been working non-stop since the trial ended, trying to solve the impossible problem of moving humanity faster than anyone thought possible. I have good news, Emma said. Captain Carter's data from the Void sector worked. We have cracked it. Cracked what? Claire asked. Quantum slip technology, Emma explained. It lets ships phase partially out of normal space. We can travel huge distances instantly, and the Council sensors cannot even see us when we do it. Claire felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. How many ships can you modify? Every human vessel, Emma said with a tired smile. The technology is simple once you know how it works. We can send the modification instructions to every ship in the fleet. They can install it themselves in a few hours. Captain Alex Turner had been silent until now. He commanded the largest civilian transport fleet in human space, and his job was to save families, not fight wars. Even with new engines, Alex said quietly, we still have a problem. Some colonies do not want to leave. Claire looked at him in surprise. What do you mean? New California has 8 million people, Alex explained. They have been there for 30 years. They built homes, businesses, entire lives. Some of them are saying they would rather fight the Council than abandon everything they built. General E. Stone nodded grimly. Same thing on Port Liberty and 3 of the mining worlds. People are angry, and they want to make a stand. Claire closed her eyes for a moment. She understood the anger, but this was not the time for heroic gestures. This was about survival. Get me a direct line to all colony governors, she said. Now. 20. Minutes later, Claire was speaking directly to the leaders of every human world in Council space. Their faces filled screens around the room, showing the same mix of anger, fear, and determination that Claire felt. I know what you are thinking, Claire began. I know you want to fight. But if we fight now in their space with their rules, we lose everything. Not just the colonies, but Earth too. Governor Janet Miller from New California spoke first. Madam President, we cannot just run away. These are our homes. No, Claire said firmly. These are buildings and land. Your homes are the people you love. Your homes are your families and your communities. Those can move. Buildings cannot love. You back. What about our history? Asked Governor Pete Jackson from Port Liberty. 30 years of memories, of building something new. Do we just throw that away? We take it with us, Claire replied. Every piece of art, every photo, every story. We take our history and our culture and we build something even better in a place where no one can take it away from us. Dr. Watson interrupted with urgent news. Claire, we are getting reports from our observation posts. Council ships are already moving toward human colonies. They are not waiting for the deadline. Claire felt her heart sink. How long do we have? 3 days, maybe 4, Emma replied. The Zephyrians are sending a full battle fleet toward the outer colonies. The decision was made for them. There was no more time for debate. All governors, listen carefully, Claire said. Evacuation begins now. Leave everything that cannot walk or think. Take only people, animals, and whatever data storage you can carry. Everything else stays behind. What about the infrastructure? Governor Miller asked. The power plants? The manufacturing centers? The orbital stations? General Stone smiled coldly. We have plans for those. 4 hours later, human colonies across Council space began the greatest exodus in galactic history. Transport ships arrived at every world, their new quantum slip engines allowing them to appear instantly wherever they were needed. On New California, 8 million people streamed toward landing zones in an organized evacuation that looked like a city walking away from itself. Families carried their most precious belongings while leaving behind homes they had spent decades building. Captain Turner coordinated the civilian evacuation from his flagship, a massive transport ship that had been converted from an old cargo hauler. His screens showed hundreds of ships moving between worlds, each one carrying thousands of people toward safety. "Status report," Alex called out. "New California is 60% evacuated," his first officer replied. "Port Liberty is moving faster than expected. The outer colonies are almost completely clear." "What about the research stations?" "Dr. Price's team at the Kepler station says they need 6 more hours to secure their data. The xenobiology labs are refusing to leave without their specimens." Alex understood. Scientists had spent their entire careers studying alien life forms. Asking them to abandon their work was like asking artists to burn their paintings. Meanwhile, General Stone's teams were carrying out what they called departure gifts for the Council. Every piece of human technology that could not be moved was being systematically destroyed or sabotaged. Power plants were programmed to shut down permanently after the humans left. Manufacturing centers had their computer systems wiped and their machinery disabled. Orbital stations were set to decompress their atmosphere and drift into space. "If they want our colonies," Stone told his officers, "they can have empty rocks." The most satisfying destruction was happening at the joint research facilities where humans had worked alongside alien scientists. Every piece of shared technology, every collaborative project, every innovation that had come from human-alien cooperation was being deleted from the databases. 30 years of scientific advancement, Dr. Watson said as she watched the data destruction reports. All of it gone because they were afraid of what we might discover together. "Not gone," Claire corrected. "We kept copies of everything important. They just do not get to benefit from our work anymore." On the third day, as the last transport ships prepared to leave Council space, something unexpected happened. Alien ships began arriving at abandoned human colonies. "Look at this," Captain Turner said, showing Claire a video feed from New California. Zephyrian warships were landing on the empty world, their crews emerging to explore the vacant cities. The aliens moved through human buildings like tourists in a museum, touching walls and examining furniture that had been left behind. They found empty houses with meals still on tables, schools with lessons still written on boards, parks where children had been playing just hours before. They expected to find us, Claire realized. They thought we would fight for the colonies. Instead, they found ghost towns, General Stone added with satisfaction. The final phase of the evacuation was the most dangerous. The last human ships had to leave Council space while alien fleets were actively hunting for them. But the quantum slip technology made them invisible and untouchable. Captain Carter, aboard the New Horizons, was the last human to leave Council space. His ship flickered out of normal space just as a Zephyrian patrol ship arrived at his location. The aliens found nothing but empty space and the fading energy signature of technology they did not understand. 1 minute before the deadline, President Adams received a message from Captain Carter. "All human personnel are clear of Council space. We are free." Claire activated the general communication system that would reach every human ship, every evacuated colony, every person who had given up their home to preserve their freedom. "People of Earth and all human worlds," she began. "Today we did not lose our homes. Today we discovered that our home was never a place. Our home is each other. Our home is the dream of building something better among the stars. And that dream cannot be taken away by any council or any alien empire." As the massive fleet of human ships activated their quantum slip drives and disappeared into the void beyond Council space, they left behind empty worlds and a council that was beginning to realize they had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. Behind them, reality itself began to change in ways that no one could have predicted. Jake Sullivan stood in the center of the massive chamber and felt the weight of 47 alien species staring down at him. The Galactic Council Hall stretched up so high that he could barely see the ceiling. Rows of seats curved around him, in a perfect circle, each one filled with creatures that looked like they belonged in nightmares or dreams. He wore his best uniform, the dark blue fabric pressed and clean. The golden stars on his shoulders caught the strange purple light that filled the room. Behind him sat Lisa Morgan and Ryan Carter, the only other humans allowed to witness this moment. Lisa kept checking her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. Ryan sat perfectly still, his jaw tight with anger. "Admiral Sullivan of Earth," said a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. The speaker was Counselor Vex Thigh, a creature that looked like a giant snake with arms. His scales shimmered green and black under the lights. "You stand accused of crimes against the sacred equilibrium doctrine." Jake had practiced this moment for weeks. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. But looking up at all those alien faces, some with too many eyes, others with none at all, he felt his mouth go dry. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice echoing in the vast space. "Humanity stands ready to answer these charges. But first we ask that you remember what we have given to this galaxy." A sound like breaking glass came from the Christine delegation. Jake had learned that this meant laughter, though it did not sound funny to human ears. Several other species made their own versions of dismissive noises. Vexathai raised one scaled hand for silence. "You may present your defense, human, but know that this council has already heard much about your species and your activities." Jake activated the hologram projector in his hand. The air above him filled with images of human achievements. Ships flying between stars. Humans working alongside aliens on space stations. Peaceful meetings between species that had been at war for centuries. 3 years ago, Jake said, the Mortani and the Kelros had been fighting for 50 years. Their war threatened to destroy 2 entire star systems. Human diplomats helped them find peace. Today, they trade with each other and share scientific knowledge. The hologram showed mining operations on dead worlds, turning them into gardens. It showed human doctors working to cure diseases that had plagued alien species for generations. It showed human engineers building bridges across impossible distances. The Zephyrian Empire said it was impossible to build a space station in the Gamma Nebula, Jake continued. Human engineers not only built it, but they built it in half the time and for half the cost. That station now serves as a hub for 6 different species. Lisa stood up and activated her own projector. Charts and graphs filled the air, showing data that would have made most humans dizzy. But Jake knew that several species in the council were even more obsessed with numbers than humans were. "In the past 10 years, Lisa said, human exploration has discovered 43 new worlds suitable for life. We have shared the location of every single one with the council. Human scientists have developed 17 new medical treatments, all of which have been freely given to any species that needed them. Human farmers have increased food production on 16 different worlds." The chamber remained silent. Jake could not tell if this was good or bad. Some aliens had faces that humans could read, but others were like looking at rocks or clouds. Ryan stood up next. As a ship captain, he had spent more time with aliens than most humans. He knew how to read the subtle signs that meant danger. "Something is wrong," he whispered to Jake. "Look at the Zephyrian section. They are not even pretending to listen." Jake glanced over and saw that Ryan was right. The snake-like aliens were having quiet conversations among themselves. A few were even looking at small screens instead of paying attention to the human presentation. "Counselors," Jake said, raising his voice, "are there specific charges you would like us to address?" Vexathai's eyes, which were solid black and the size of dinner plates, focused on Jake. "Admiral Sullivan, your species stands accused of unauthorized expansion into protected space sectors. We have filed proper exploration requests for every system we have entered," Lisa said quickly. "All of our colonies are in sectors marked as open for development." You stand accused of interference with primitive civilizations, Vexthai continued as if Lisa had not spoken. We follow the first contact protocol exactly as written, Jake replied. Every contact with a new species has been reported to this council within the required time frame, and you stand accused of violation of the sacred equilibrium doctrine. This was the charge that confused Jake the most. He had read the doctrine many times, and it seemed to be mostly about maintaining balance between different species and their territories. Humans had been careful to avoid taking more than their fair share of anything. Counselor Vexthai, Jake said, could you explain how humanity has violated this doctrine? We have taken great care to follow all council guidelines. The giant snake leaned forward in his seat. Admiral, your species has been in council space for less than 50 years. In that time, you have expanded to over 60 star systems. You have developed new technologies at a rate that other species find disturbing. You have shown an ability to adapt to any environment and solve any problem. Jake felt his heart sink. He was beginning to understand what this was really about. Counselor, he said slowly, are we being punished for being successful? You are being removed, Vexthai said, because you are a threat to the natural order of this galaxy. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Around the chamber, he could see other council members nodding their agreement. The trial had been a show. They had already decided. The vote has already been taken, Vexthai announced. By a count of 39-8, with 7 abstentions, this council finds humanity guilty of all charges. The sentence is exile. You have 7 galactic standard days to remove all human presence from council space. Lisa shot to her feet. This is insane! We have done nothing but help! You have done exactly what we feared you would do, said a voice like singing crystals. The speaker was from the Harmonic Collective, a species that Jake had always thought was friendly to humans. You have shown that you are better than us, faster than us, more creative than us. This cannot be allowed. Jake felt a cold rage building in his chest, but he forced his voice to stay calm. So this is what galactic civilization has become, mediocrity protected by law. You may see it that way, Vexthai said. We see it as survival. Jake looked around. The chamber one more time. 47 species, and most of them were afraid of one. Not because humans had threatened them or attacked them, but because humans had dared to be excellent. Very well, Jake said. Humanity accepts your sentence. We will leave your space as ordered. He started to turn away, then stopped and looked back at Vexthai. But, Counselor, I want you to remember this moment. You think you are casting us out, but you are setting us free. Humanity does not need your counsel or your protection. We will find our own way among the stars. And when we do, you will realize what you have lost. As the 3 humans walked toward the exit, Jake's communicator buzzed. A message from Ryan's ship, the New Horizons. They had found something in the deep space regions beyond Council territory. Something amazing. Jake smiled for the first time in days. Maybe exile would not be such a bad thing after all.